Welcome to WizeUp. I'm Paul Arthur. Want to talk today about finances. I mean, look around us, look in the mirror. So many of us just are living in financial stress, right? Wouldn't it be nice to live debt-free and stress-free? That would be nice, wouldn't it? We're going to find out how to get there from here today. And before we jump in, a quick reminder to hit subscribe and tell your friends about us as well. Always appreciate that. Our guest joining us from Ontario today is Michel Bell. He was formerly adjunct professor of business administration at Briarcrest College and Seminary, and also formerly vice president of business planning with Alcan Inc. I think they've changed their name since, Rio Tinto I think it is now, but one of the largest aluminum companies in the world. So he's been around business for a long time in finances. He's also the author of a book called Managing God's Money, and the founder of Managing God's Money, which you'll find online at managinggodsmoney.com. All right, Michel, good to have you with us again.
It's always a pleasure, Paul, to be on your program and to talk about things that are passionate in my heart, and that's money, actually time as well. So yes, thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Yes, I remember. I think it was at a Focus on the Family thing that you were doing a tour across Canada where I first saw you, and I thought, you know what, this guy's got some truth in here. I need to get him on the program. So we've been touching base on the interviews for many years, and Michel, I really appreciate your heart for living out life God's way as best you can, right? So, and when it comes to time and money, those are specialties He seems to have given you, and you've launched something new here called Managing God's Money Academy. So did you want to give us a quick overview of what that is?
Yeah, the Managing God's Money Academy is something that has been in the works for maybe 20 years. Managing God's Money as a website came into being in 1989. And I've structured and restructured and grouped and regrouped. And in the process, I have met thousands of people. I have interviewed and counseled hundreds of people. And there are some fundamental themes. And I've been trying to see what's the best way to capture this. I've done some things in a book, but this website basically has 4 components. It says we should first learn to spend. And in it, we talk about different aspects of spending. There are different resources, etc. How to spend, how to give, how to save, and how to invest. Typically, we teach our kids how to save. And generally, we teach them that not spending is saving, which it isn't. So what the Academy is trying to do, it's a platform where actually at the end of it, there's a certificate that you can get. It has self-diagnosis along the way, and it's structured in the way that you've got different types of learning. There are books we suggest that you could read. There are websites that we are suggesting that you could read. There are activities that we present, and there are some responsive readings. And in each section, I've got some Aesop fables, some timeless truths about different aspects of it. So, in my view, somebody could take their time and go through this in about 3 to 6 months, and you come out with a really good understanding of what is spending. There are a couple of books I recommend, for example, in spending. One of my favorites is a book called Biology, Buyology. Another one of the book is what are some of the irresponsible things that we do. It focuses on some of the things that we do, impulsive spending, emotional spending, etc. Nowhere in this we're trying to guilt anybody. We're not trying to guilt anybody. But what we're saying is you can learn. For example, we just came out of Christmas. We're going into Valentine's. We're going to Easter. There are spending buttons every month, every week. How do we deal with that? So these are, in broad terms, some of the things that we're trying to accomplish. Who is it for? Anybody, everybody. There are no websites that I'm aware of that's going to do this. What we're trying to say is everything is free. You don't have to give us your emails. You don't have to log in. You go in, you do what you want to do, you get off.
I love it. Michael, there's no strings attached. This is really, really solid, practical financial advice, coming from somebody who's been around the block a few times here on this, and so much to learn for free. I mean, you work at your own pace. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. So I highly recommend people check this out. Like you say, it might take you 3 months to go through, 6 months to go through. But frankly, even if you take 15 minutes to even glance through superficially what you've got there, it's going to get you on the right road. So this is good. ManagingGodsMoney.com.
So the other thing, what we like people to do is to start where I call it a quick financial checkup. They're just 10 questions. And again, nothing to guilt you. And we're not saying this is right and this is wrong. We're just saying these are some characteristics. Just check. Do you normally work with a budget? You don't have to. Do you? Do you use more than one credit card? Do you spend on your credit card to go to some questions? And based on my experience, I have categorized them into different forms. And I'm saying if you score between this range, you probably want to just look at this a little bit more. If you score within this range, great, but maybe you do look at this and so on. Then we have something we call a spending fast, which is not what the name implies. It's not that you stop spending. No, you spend, but you make a note of everything that you're doing. Why did you spend? What motivated you to spend? When did you spend? What were some of these triggers? And you just make a note. And at the end of, we suggest a month, but if it's even a day, a weekend, at the end of this period, you're going to say, oh, you know what? Every Thursday on my way home, I pass at Tim Hortons and I do this. Every Friday, when I'm really upset, I just go and like to buy nice shoes or something like that. So these are some of the issues that we touch on early in there.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying here, the spending fast, I looked at that and I thought, this is good. The vast majority of people, I think, well, I shouldn't say that, maybe not, but many, many people I know, they have no idea where their financial boat is leaking and why it's leaking. And until you do something like this, you won't know. And how do you fix something when you don't know what the problem is? You got to find out what the problem is, and then we can start working on fixing it.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying to folks. Don't try to change your behavior. In this process, you're not changing your behavior. You're learning your behavior. Afterwards, you can say, gee, maybe I shouldn't have 10 cups of Timmy's every day or 5.
Exactly.
Whatever. My experience is everybody who goes through this assiduously for a month will find at least $250 per month.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody I've worked with will find this because we don't know the leakages. We actually don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I should ask here as well, because again, we're saying managinggodsmoney.com. Why do you think it's, why are you saying it's God's money? I want to know how to save and spend my money.
And that's the first problem.
It is, isn't it?
Actually, I'm a very simplistic guy. So I go back and I said, you know what? When the first person came on this earth, whoever you want to say that first person is, that's fine. When this person came on, that person had nothing. There was everything. And I am saying, from where I sit and my belief system, God created everything and he owns everything.
Yep.
And whatever you acquire as a steward, as a manager. And if you have that attitude, see, money is a lousy master. Money will boss you. You need to be the boss of the money. And if you recognize that, you know what, I'm a steward, I am taking care of somebody's property, then you have the freedom. You don't have to go to bed at night, oh, my money is going. No, you will behave differently when you know you need to look after it and account. That's the other point. You want to account. So I've got something I call the gas principle, which is the essence of managing God's money. Actually, it's a trademarked
Okay.
name. It starts by saying God owns everything. And then what it says is that you should accept who you are, where you are, and what you have. People say, oh, yeah, but that means I shouldn't have any ambition. No, I'm saying as a basis to move ahead, we need to accept where we are. We accept it, and then we see what we can do about it. And then the S is we should learn to love people the way we want them to love and treat us. Simplistic, not rocket science, but I'm telling you, when we put that package together, we see a couple of messages. One, therefore, I need to look after things that come my way. Money. And by the way, time. I have 24 hours, and it's enough. I need to look after that as a manager. The second thing is I'm going to treat people the way I want them to treat me. You know, people say, oh, gee, that's the second greatest commandment, the golden rule, whatever. You treat people the way you want them to treat you, things are going to change.
They will. They will.
And you just accept where you are as the basis to change. And my personal opinion, based on research, based on experience, is when you incorporate these principles, this gas principle in your life, it changes your outlook in terms of who owns what and what's my role in this owning process.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with that. Again, if you're just joining us, managinggodsmoney.com, I want to steer you to the website there because there's something new here for Michael, and that is Managing God's Money Academy. And it's free, and it's going to give you all kinds of really good training in how to manage your finances, but really God's finances, okay? And then God blesses when we're doing what God's blessing, it'll get blessed. So now, again, you're talking about spending, saving, giving, and investing. And it's interesting. You're saying that actually learning how to spend is actually the most important skill, even more so than saving, which is we kind of go like, what? Right? So do you want to unpack that a little bit? We need to ask, I guess, why we're spending, right?
Why is learning to spend the most important skill in the academy? And I'm suggesting spending shapes the lifestyle choices. Spending shapes our lifestyle choice. It determines the opportunity cost. It determines that thing which we must give up. By the way, when we spend on something, it means we don't have the funds to spend on something else. That's so. For example, if I want to save money to go and take a university course, and it costs $5,000, but somebody has come with some fancy thing and say, oh, if you could get $5,000, you'd get an iPad and an this and all those things. I need to stop before I spend. I have something called an affordability index. Before I spend, I'm thinking, okay, if I spend on this, what am I giving up? When we think about saving, we said, okay, let's put aside stuff, etc. And we forget that in the process of saving, the hooks, the seduction comes and it takes away things from saving. So if we start, when we master spending decisions, we create margins that serve us to save, to give, and to invest. When we focus on saving, we forget about the amazing seduction in life to get us to spend and move off the platform. And by the way, the other thing that's important is giving. We'll say, yeah, but not everybody can give. When I'm saying giving, I'm talking about all aspects of life. Giving 5 minutes to help somebody, some organization. Giving 10 minutes. Sure, time, money, and resources. Once we start to do that, that also creates an attitude in our mind of how do we serve one another? How do we treat one another with dignity, with respect, and so on. So I'm absolutely convinced that we should start teaching our youngsters first how to spend, because that, once you start to do that, automatically you're into how to save.
Okay. No, I appreciate how you present that, and it actually makes sense when you think it through here. And when it comes to spending, again, lots of questions we need to ask. Why am I spending? Should we spend using credit cards or debit or cash? And again, what are our spending goals? You talk lots about setting goals in this program here in your academy, right? And you talk about costing out your spending and setting aside individual buckets, if you will, for spending as well, right?
Yeah. It all goes back to, again, I have something which is in the process of being trademarked, a budget. Most people would say, "Oh, I don't like budgeting. It's a tight wad. It's a tight rope. It constrains." And I'm thinking, no. The beautiful thing about a budget, it frees. Really? Yes. How does a budget free? What is a budget? A budget is nothing more and nothing less than recognizing I have some goals to accomplish. I set aside resources to accomplish those goals. So it's today's view of resources needed for tomorrow's goal. So putting aside funds just help us, and then we're in charge and we can change that budget. The budget framework that I have in the academy and on the website essentially says, go develop your goals, you're in charge of your goals, review them as they change, but don't assume that you should be looking at money. For example, governments, and again, this is probably going to show my thinking, but governments waste money, period. They're really good at that. They're really, really good. And one of the reasons is because they focus on money. They'll say, oh, we're going to put so much more money into healthcare. And I'm thinking, yeah, but you shouldn't be looking at how much money you're putting. You should see what is wrong, what do we need to fix it, and what it's going to cost. Two parts to spending. What is it I'm trying to do? What's the cost? Iteratively, okay, maybe I can't do this. How do I change? But what we tend to do is say, oh, my budget is X. Fit this, whatever it is, into that, and then we overspend.
Yeah, frankly, I think our government needs to get a copy of your book and spend some time in your academy here. Would do us all a lot of good here. Yeah, so these same principles apply, I think, to spending and saving, and you also talk about giving. Really, you mentioned that giving. It's like it needs to become a lifestyle, doesn't it? Our heart to give, and maybe we could do a whole show on this, so we won't spend too much time on it. But this always comes up, of course, when we talk about finances within the context of a mainly Christian audience. And that is, should we be tithing or not? And you take a bit of a controversial position on this, saying actually tithing, is in one sense not for today. It's old covenant, and I would agree. It's you're not required to tithe in order to get to heaven, for example, right? And we live under a new covenant, which is better than the old covenant. But when you look at it very carefully, Jesus, in the new covenant, we have much more freedom, but yet he's calling us up to a much higher level of everything, a higher level of forgiveness, higher level of giving, to live generously. So it's not an excuse to say, oh, I don't have to tithe, so therefore I should give less. Wrong answer.
So here's the left brain response. If we start, God owns everything.
Yeah.
We need to stop and unpack that. What does that mean? What does everything mean? I'm not trying to be cute. What does everything mean? If God owns everything, we are stewards and we're responsible to spend according to how he guides us. So I'm saying tithing is a non sequitur. It doesn't make, it's illogical. It does not, if we buy and I'm not saying we have to, I do. God owns everything. I believe that. Therefore, if he owns everything, I am a steward. And I must spend responsibly, and I must spend based on what I see to be his time frame, his constraints, his goals, and his map for me. That's kind of the way I look at it. And I just think it's illogical to say God owns everything and think about, oh, I'll give him 10%. So what about the 90%? I mean, that's where that's where I live.
Well, yeah, I mean, God doesn't need our tithe. He doesn't need anything from anybody. But he's really doing he encourages us to live generously because that's who he is. And if we really believe that he lives inside of us, his spirit, the scripture says he who is joined to the Lord is one spirit with him. That means I should be walking in the light as he is in the light. Right? I mean, we are partakers of the divine nature, and that looks like something, practically speaking, including being loving, patient, and kind, and generous. Always generous. So, and you talk about too, it's not just giving money, but it's giving of time, our skills, and our possessions, and you even talk about, planning to give, and also being ready to give spontaneously, right?
Yeah, actually, to me, that's even more important. I think it's good. We should plan, but there's spontaneous where, that thing grips you and, I need to respond. And then responding, sometimes we go and we analyze and we need to understand that spontaneous giving sometimes is where it's all at. We plan, but we need to learn to respond. The thing about it, Paul, from my perspective, is giving is a way of life. Mm-hmm. Giving, if we choose to treat others the way we want them to treat us, if we choose to love our neighbor as ourselves, that involves giving, not necessarily money. In fact, money, my experience is once you take money out and you recognize that it's time and talents, etc., money follows. Money is not going to this. I'm available. I'm available. Oh, this is happening. I'm available. I give my time, and therefore I need to supplement it. And that's what I'm trying to suggest. We need to develop a giving lifestyle, as opposed to, because it's kind of easy to just make that donation and forget about it. But how do we get involved, especially in our great country? I mean, there's so much we can do. And we just need to step up to the plate and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as believers, we should be the most generous people on the planet, frankly, and the kindest people. We should.
Yes.
We before we run out of time here, we should touch on investing. So we've talked about spending, saving, and giving, but investing is a bit different than spending, right? So can you just unpack that for us a bit? What does investing mean?
Investing actually is spending. It's a different form of spending. Okay. And what in investing, once we start investing, before we even start, we need to understand there's a difference between saving, investing, gambling, and speculating. I invest in the stock market, and I am not speculating. I am not gambling. I'm investing / saving because I have to account. I know it's not mine, which is why it's very easy for me to just recognize I need to do the very best I can. So once we do this, so what is saving? Saving means I'm going to put funds aside, and those funds, 99.9% sure those funds will be available when I need them.
Right.
Investing has some risk. And it's a wide continuum. I can put it in something called a money market, which is basically a bank account, sort of, and get some interest. The amount I put aside is going to be fixed, but the interest is going to be fairly small. Speculating is where I think, okay, I am going to guess that in 2 years or so, Apple or Microsoft or something is going to be at this. So I'm going to put some money there. Mm-hmm. And once we decide to speculate, we need to recognize that we could lose everything we put aside, not save, It's not going to be safe. And gambling is pretty much the same, but it's actually generally with speculating and gambling tends to be more frequent. They can be the same, but once we start to do that, it's the same. I'm going to be betting that this stock goes there, and there are lots of instruments. You can trade and gamble at the same time. So as we start, we need to recognize that those things are crucial. What are we going to do? Are we going to save? There's a truism: high risk, potentially high return. Low risk, potentially low return. Mm-hmm. And gambling and speculating can lead to really significant returns, or you lose everything. So my suggestion, and I write extensively in this, actually I have been teaching my children and grandchildren about investing, and just saying, you've got to be careful that you don't let the market and the noise take over, because the stock market allows you to gamble, speculate, and invest. What is it you're trying to do? And we need to be very clear. And then somebody say, this stock is going to double. Those words lead to speculating, gambling. We don't want to go there. So
okay. And I'm sorry to interrupt there because I'm running out of time here, about 30 seconds left. It goes so fast. But Michael, thank you for what you've shared here today. This is really important stuff. It is. We shouldn't just gloss over it. So I want to steer people towards your website and to actually, again, take the Managing God's Money Academy course there for free. Tell your friends about it as well. Absolutely worth it. No strings attached. All right. ManagingGodsMoney.com is the website, and it's going to get you on the right path. Thank you, Michael. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Hit subscribe. WizeUp.ca.